Good afternoon. An investigation is underway into the city's latest homicide.
A man who showed up at a local hospital with gunshot wounds later died as a result of his injuries. Police say the victim arrived at a hospital in 31 Division just before 5:30 a.m. with multiple gunshot wounds, but later succumbed to those injuries. So far, police have not provided any details on where the shooting may have taken place. No additional information is available about the victim or possible suspects.
Meanwhile, a man's in hospital following a shooting in the city's King West neighborhood early this morning.
The investigation has sealed off a portion of King Street for several hours. CTV's Sean Leathong has been following the investigation and joins us live now with the latest. Sean.
Well, Natalie and Nathan, I'm standing on King Street, just about a block west of Spadina, and I'm going to step out of frame and show you this very large and active police presence, this scene that's happening right now. You can see there are several evidence markers, and what we're told is that at about 4:45 this morning, this shooting took place where a man was struck in the leg. Now, much of the evidence markers in this area that's closed off on the south side of the street is in front of an alleyway that leads towards a bar called Paris, Texas, and just beyond that, there's a place called Marbell. What we understand is that somebody was leaving one of these areas very early this morning, just before 5 o'clock, before there was some sort of altercation resulting in gunfire. And then beyond there, police aren't giving much information. They're being relatively tight-lipped. What we're being told is one man was taken to hospital, shot in the leg with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. Police had an update just a little while ago. Here's what they had to say.
Once on scene, they located a male in his 20s suffering from at least one gunshot wound. Officers were able to apply a tourniquet. Members of emergency services arrived. The male was subsequently transported to a local hospital to be treated for his injuries. It's my understanding that he is currently in serious but non-life-threatening condition. You'll see it's a large scene behind me. Unfortunately, traffic has been King Street is closed from roughly Spadina back to Brant. Traffic is going to be closed for a while. Though between our forensic ident people who are controlling and going through all the evidence markers, we have other issues to deal with in terms of trying to get some security and surveillance video. So it's going to be shut down for some time.
Now, you can see right now on King Street, there's a woman's shoe and appears to be a coat amongst the debris. Now, much of the evidence markers could be shell casings, but we're not entirely sure. Now, police were asked on scene if this was in any way connected to the person who showed up in hospital and later dying of another of gunshot wounds. So far, Toronto police are saying that there is no connection that they can make at this time, but this area has remained closed. As they mentioned, the forensic identification unit is on scene, and they say it will be closed for some time. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Nathan and Natalie, I'll send it back to you.
Okay, thank you, Sean. An investigation is underway after 2 homes were damaged by gunfire in Scarborough last night. Police were called to the area of Ellesmere and Markham Roads around 9 p.m. They found evidence of gunfire in the area, including damage to 2 homes and a vehicle. No injuries were reported. Police have not released any information about possible suspects.
And Durham police are investigating a stabbing in Oshawa last night. Police were investigating a pedestrian struck near Adelaide and Prince Street around 9:15 p.m. when the man approached them. Now, he was assessed at the scene, and it was discovered he'd been stabbed in the back. He was taken to a Toronto area trauma center with serious injuries. Meanwhile, the pedestrian who'd been struck, an 84-year-old man, was taken to hospital in stable condition. Police say the 2 incidents were not related, and an ongoing investigation remains.
The Ford government is set to table sweeping legislation today, which will change the requirements for people putting up bail.
The bill will also target dangerous drivers with harsher penalties. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live with the details. Siobhan.
This is the Premier making good on a promise he made to the family of Andrew Cristillo. The father of 3 was killed in a crash on the 401 back in August. The driver who hit him had also hit the Premier's SUV back in January. Well, the Premier met with the Cristillo family in the summer and promised to bring in tougher penalties for dangerous drivers. Today, the government will table a bill that will enact lifetime driving bans for anyone convicted of dangerous driving causing death. Police would also be able to suspend the licenses of anyone they suspect of dangerous driving for 90 days. The government's been sharing the contents of this bill in dribs and drabs over the last week or so. They're proposing making parts of the sex offender registry public, making drivers who kill parents in drunk driving crashes pay child support, and make people who get bail pay up front. Our political analyst Scott Reed says all of this gets the government back talking about issues they prefer to focus on.
What it is going to do, of course, is allow the government to talk once again about bail reform, talk about this sort of set of crime issues, all of which is in its wheelhouse. But it will also invite people to say, and groups to say, well, how about better funding our jails, where there's going to be more people in? How about better funding our court system, which is clogged up? How about better funding the administration of justice? So it'll be interesting to see how successful the opposition is in pushing on those issues, or whether the opposition says, you know what, like, this is a popular measure. I'm not getting on the wrong side of it.
We'll hear from several ministers in a news conference at 1:30, including the Solicitor General and Attorney General. The bill itself will be tabled at 3 o'clock. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan and Natalie, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Siobhan. A suspected white nationalist demonstration was captured on dashcam footage in London, Ontario. It happened on Sunday. The footage appears to show a group of roughly 30 people standing on an overpass in dark clothing and masks. They are holding a banner which reads, "Remigration Now." The term refers to a far-right idea regarding the deportation of non-white immigrants. The group also displayed the red ensign flag, which served as a Canadian symbol before the maple leaf flag was adopted in 1965.
But presenting themselves in uniforms with masks, in black attire, with a clear message that says all people who aren't white should get out of Canada on a banner in a public space, I would say is more intimidation than conversation.
That was the driver who captured the video, who does not want to be named. London's deputy police chief denounced the demonstration, calling it a concern because the message clearly appears to be hateful. Still to come this hour, pipeline politics in Western Canada. BC's premier is expressing his anger over an upcoming agreement between Alberta and Ottawa that will see a new oil pipeline carry crude west. We'll have the details a little later in the newscast. But first, Mayor Mayor Chow made an announcement today regarding youth jobs in Scarborough.
She says the city's providing free job certification for 2,000 young people. CTV's Janice Golding joins us live with more on today's announcement. Janice.
Hi, Nathan. Yes, as you've mentioned, there was an announcement this morning at a Scarborough Community Centre about the expansion of a youth employment program. Now, the Building Skills Through Recreation is an existing program that provides youth from 15 to 24 with free employment readiness training, meaning free CPR and first aid training, as well as more than 100 certification courses in areas like general recreation, sports, and aquatics. And that includes lifeguarding and coaching certifications. To date, the program has helped 1,000 kids get training for jobs, and the city says it's now going to double the number of spots to support up to 2,000 youth in 2026.
We created a system that delivers real results, and now we're scaling it up. Youth will receive certification ranging from basketball instructors training to standard first aid, lifeguard qualifications, and bike safety, with coordinated outreach and targeted support for young people in neighborhood improvement areas. We're leveling the playing field to young people who can walk into a job ready, confident, and qualified.
Our focus is neighborhood improvement areas, safety zones, communities that are underserved and equity deserving. And, you know, while we don't really have a filter on it, our focus of outreach is those communities.
I think it's really important because really, when you think about it, there's no disadvantages to going through the program. Regardless of what your outcome is, it's either could be great and you get employment, or you get the skills that will prepare you to eventually get employment.
The city says it currently employs about 16,000 young people. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. Stellantis says it will bring back a third shift at its Windsor assembly plant in February. The move will lead to the creation of 1,400 jobs. The shift was originally eliminated 5 years ago. Workers who were recently laid off from the Stellantis plant in Brampton, which is moving production to Illinois, will have the first chance to apply for the new jobs. The Coaches Association of Ontario has released its report for 2025.
The document is offering a look at the culture of sports and coaching leadership across the province. CTV's Rahim Ladani has been following this story and joins us live with more on the findings. Rahim.
Hi, Natalie. We're inside the Hockey Hall of Fame, where you're really surrounded by greatness of the hockey greats and so much history. But what isn't encapsulated inside this building are often the dark and disturbing realities which so many amateur athletes face before they get to this level. And that's what's happening here today. The Coaches Association of Ontario, they've gathered to release a new report to talk about some of those realities. And what one of the findings was is that hazing is still very widespread across sports. I want to bring in Jay Johnson. He's a lead researcher of hazing from the University of Manitoba. Jay, if you could just share some light with our viewers in terms of what were some of the findings.
Sure. Well, what we're finding, unfortunately, is that hazing is still going on. And it's going on at all levels of sport and across sport, but predominantly our most vulnerable athletes are in schools, that school age between 13 and 23.
I think when we talk about hazing, often our minds go to the most extreme, but hazing can take on a number of different, I guess, identities, if you can shed some light on some of those.
Certainly. I'll just build, too, though, that our athletes, during that vulnerable time, they can be hazed several times through that period, getting up to their professional sport or elite sport. So we really need to look to change that culture and work with athletes through administrations and coaches to try and build on that.
One of the findings showed that 1 in 7 athletes from a very young age will experience hazing. That number jumps to 1 in 2 by the time they're 19 to 24. What can parents who are watching right now do in terms of talking with their children or maybe talking with their coaches to make sure that they're involved and they know what's going on?
You're absolutely right. That talking part is a big part of this, because what we found is there's a disconnect between coaches' understanding of what hazing actually is and then the athletes and parents who really recognize serious and very serious hazing as problematic and something they want to get rid of. So starting with that conversation and finding out what's going on is a great starting place. And then you can work with your teams and administrations to build parameters around that, right? To have sanctions in place, to have a policy in place, but also to have resources to support the teams doing something. Because that ritual itself, marking, that movement of players onto the team and being on the team, we're human beings. My background is a sociologist. We want to belong, so we want to be on the team. So let's build that and preserve that culture or create that culture that really supports positive team values and everything that is throughout the report.
Jay, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. So as you can see here, a lot to get into in this report, and we'll continue to look into it and have more for you at 5 and 6 o'clock. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Raheem. We have more news in a moment, but first a look at the forecast. Here's a live look at the city this afternoon. We are above seasonal today with a sun-cloud mix. Not a lot of sunshine, though, really. The trend's going to continue tomorrow, but there's a change coming Thursday. Cooler air on the way, and also some flurries and or snow. Let's take a look at our satellite radar. Right now, the story is the rain coming from the southwest. Quite a huge system is moving toward us, and it's going to hit us in about an hour or so keep that in mind. Rain is on the way. As for the current winds, pretty light, although in some areas it's a bit windy, so that's just something to keep in mind as well. Right now we're sitting at 11 degrees in Niagara Falls, 10 in Peterborough, 8 in Hamilton, so the trend all over the province is above seasonal. Conditions, of course, are going to change in a couple of days. We're sitting at 8 at the islands, 9 at the airport, and that rain again coming in later this afternoon throughout the evening. At least we're above seasonal, but again, that rain's going to eventually become snow. We'll give you a look at the long-range forecast a little bit later on in the show. Well, to other news, the federal government and Alberta are set to sign a memorandum of understanding on energy and climate change on Thursday. Sources say that deal will pave the way for a new oil pipeline to the BC coast.
Now a move by a Saskatchewan company also has BC's Premier fuming. CTV's Rob Buffin reports.
An agreement between Alberta and Ottawa is expected this week for a memorandum of understanding on a new pipeline to BC's coast, involving an exemption to the province's tanker ban.
Big picture, what we're looking to do and what we are doing is a series of major investments, nation-building projects that make our country stronger.
Premier Eby talked Monday morning with Prime Minister Carney, expressing his strong opposition to the plan, telling reporters the deal isn't yet finalized and reiterating his frustrations that even Saskatchewan was included in talks about the pipeline, but not BC.
It's not something that would happen to Quebec. This is not something that would happen to other provinces in the Federation. I don't know why. The thought was that it would be okay for it to happen in British Columbia.
Eby acknowledged an official MOU was likely days away, but disputed that means an actual pipeline is inevitable, with no private sector proponent yet.
If it is going to be taxpayer funded, that British Columbia get access to a $50 billion federally funded project as well.
I'm thrilled to see that this is going forward. I think it's part of a nation-building project that helps to unify this country.
Eby told the Prime Minister his biggest demand, that coastal First Nations be at the table.
Coastal First Nations consent and support is required for this conversation.
Meanwhile, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith expressed confidence on her radio talk show a deal is coming.
We've been going back and forth almost daily for probably the better part of the last 2 weeks.
Feeling left out of consultations, Eby's frustrations amplified by news a huge Saskatchewan potash company plans to ship its products out of Washington state, not BC's ports.
That really was just the cherry on top.
Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe firing back.
I'm really disappointed that, you know, an NDP premier would, you know, start, you know, thinking that this conversation is either or. It's either his projects or someone else's, and always advocating that it should be his.
Robert Buffum, CTV News.
And CTV's Colton Prale has been following this story and joins us live now with the latest. Colton, let's start with the pushback from BC and what concerns are being expressed by Premier David Eby.
Yeah, it's twofold, and you heard both bits there. The first off is the involvement of taxpayer funding. He's arguing that there should be no taxpayer funding, or if there is, a cap on that amount. And if there isn't a cap, then at the very least, BC should be getting back what is being spent. And he's putting that towards $50 billion, which would be a very expensive pipeline. 20 to 30 is a more likely range. But that is the one element of his pushback. The second, obviously, there's some consternation around a feeling as though he wasn't properly consulted. It's worth pointing out that while Saskatchewan last week did say, and Scott Moe said he was involved in those talks, he clarified on Power Play last night that he has been an advocate for the project. And if the MOU is signed, as we expect later this week, he would not be a signatory. Wasn't directly at the table, but he has advocated for the project to the federal government. The other element to all of this is the push from Premier Eby to ensure that coastal First Nations are on board. And that's important because coastal First Nations have expressed their opposition to this pipeline. And while there may be support, as Danielle Smith in Alberta has said there exists from Alberta close to Tidewater, access to Tidewater is incredibly important. And we saw that yesterday in committee. The Natural Resources Minister, Tim Hodgson, was speaking, and he said that the MPO, the Major Projects Office, and the federal government was willing to clear barriers for these major projects, like a potential pipeline. But there are caveats to clearing those barriers. Have a listen.
They have to do the work just like any other proponent. And if and when that they have done the work and they've got the support of First Nations and they have the support of the jurisdiction, we will work with them to see how we can make things happen.
Including getting rid of the tanker ban?
I'm not going to talk about hypotheticals.
Now, the minister might not be talking about hypotheticals, but I can tell you what sources are describing when it comes to this MOU, and it is that it may necessitate some sort of carve-out for the tanker ban. But on top of that, it's about more than a pipeline. It's a larger energy outline. So expect changes to the industrial emissions, the industrial carbon pricing strategy, the emissions cap, both of which were hinted at in the federal budget, is something that we could see changes to, particularly as there is a push for the Pathways Carbon Capture project. This is very much the Carney government moving away from some of those Trudeau-era climate policies without necessarily scrapping them entirely and outlining the path forward they see for climate action, while also allowing Canada the potential for a new pipeline and the creation of a regulatory environment, crucially, that might incentivize private capital to invest in it.
Okay, and so does the Memorandum of Understanding mean that the pipeline will definitely be built?
It doesn't. That's the thing. This is about pushing that project forward. We've heard from Alberta that they are going to be pitching that project to the Major Projects Office in the spring of next year, before May, is what Danielle Smith said. But even with the Albertan funding, you are still waiting on private capital. And so very much this is about ensuring the groundwork is there for that capital to come in. We have certainly heard from the Albertan government and from the oil and gas industry about some of the concerns they have around the regulatory framework that exists right now. This is about trying to alleviate some of that concern so that Canada isn't in a situation where it is another fully taxpayer-funded pipeline that is being built, if it is built.
Okay, CTV's Colton Farrell in Ottawa with the latest on the pipeline and the politics. Thank you.
Anytime.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is facing criticism for how he responded to a question about when he last spoke with U.S. President Donald Trump. Trade talks have been on pause for the past month after Ontario's anti-tariff ad angered the president. Carney says he's in no hurry to speak with Trump.
Who cares? I mean, it's a detail. It's a detail. I spoke to him. I'll speak to him again when it matters. I look forward to speaking to the president soon, but I don't have a burning issue to speak with the president about right now. When America wants to come back and have the discussions on the trade side, we will have those discussions.
The Prime Minister says, who cares? All of us on this side of the House care about the communities that are being emptied out in our forestry, the steel workers in Hamilton who don't have jobs to pay their mortgages. We care about those people. Why doesn't he?
The Minister of Canada-U.S. Relations, Dominic LeBlanc, responded by saying the government will continue to negotiate a deal with the United States. And with tensions between Canada and the U.S. remaining high, many snowbirds are not making the trip south this winter.
CTV's John Vanaveli-Rao has more on the fractured relationship and the American politicians urging Canadians to come stateside.
At Toronto's Pearson Airport, this is typically a busy week for U.S. travel, with American Thanksgiving on Thursday. But this year, the lines may not be as long as usual.
I try my best not to go to the States right now. The whole country's in a conflict.
I am not going to the U.S. at all.
Many travelers continuing to boycott travel stateside since relations with our neighbors remain strained. Something brought up by several American senators from border states over the weekend as they attended an international security conference in Halifax. Some calling Trump's tariffs a mistake, noting not only the economic damage, but how Canadians are responding personally.
But the deeper problem is the cultural break. The idea that Canadians now don't think of Americans as their friends and their neighbors, but as an adversary.
We're your friends, and we're going to do everything we can to put things back to the wonderful relationship that we've always had with Canada.
The troubled state of that relationship reflected in the latest travel data, showing in October return trips by car from the U.S. were down 30% compared to a year ago, and by air they fell 24%. We caught up with Brian Ireland as he headed off on a holiday to Cuba. He says this year he didn't even consider going to Florida.
Not at all. Not at all. We just try to stay clear there right now. We're not involved in the politics, and we're happy to be a Canadian.
A recent poll found 70% said they'd feel uncomfortable traveling to the U.S. this winter. 65% said they were concerned about new border requirements for long-term visitors, including fingerprinting. Still, some of those U.S. senators remain optimistic the damage to relations can eventually be repaired, with one of them, an independent, simply calling the tariffs ridiculous. John Vanaveli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
In Ukraine, at least 7 people were killed in Russian attacks on the capital overnight. The strikes hit buildings and energy infrastructure, knocking out water, electricity, and heat in parts of Kyiv. 22 missiles and more than 460 drones were fired at Ukraine. The attacks came during a renewed push to end the war and talks about a U.S. peace plan. Today, the UK said it will deliver more air defense missiles to Ukraine in the coming weeks. The pledge was made during a meeting of the Coalition of the Willing.
In France, 4 more arrests have been made in connection to the stunning Louvre robbery last month. 2 men and 2 women are now in custody, although the Paris prosecutor did not reveal what role they played in the robbery. On October 19th, 4 thieves made off with French crown jewels worth well over $100 million in a brazen daylight heist that stole headlines around the world. The high-profile incident raised doubts about the world-famous museum's ability to guard its precious contents. So far, there is still no trace of the stolen jewels.
And we have more news in a moment, but first another look at the forecast. If you've got plans to go shopping on Black Friday, we could have some snow, so bear that in mind. Right now we're sitting at 10 degrees in Wyerton, 7 in Muskoka, 9 in Toronto, well above seasonal pretty much anywhere you look across the province. If you go further north, you'll notice that it's much cooler. We'll give you details on that a little bit later. As for today, a mix of sun and cloud here in this city. We're well above seasonal, and that trend's going to continue for tomorrow. There's also rain on the way, along with cooler conditions Thursday and Friday. We'll give you a look at the long-range forecast after the break.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
The names for two new Komodo dragons at the Toronto Zoo have been chosen. The two 4-year-old siblings will now be called Raya and Como. The names were selected after more than 10,000 votes were cast online. The zoo says Raya has already been introduced into her new habitat. However, Como is set to remain in the zoo's Wildlife and Health Science Center for some time before eventually being rotated into the habitat.
Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers. You don't pay unless they win.
And speaking of the Komodo dragons, I remember when the first one hatched at the Toronto Zoo more than 20 years ago. I just looked it up. It was back in 2003.
Wow.
I was very taken by the Komodo dragons at the time.
Look at them now.
That's right. And speaking of the weather, I know it's getting colder. We might see some snow, but that is one of my favorite times to go to the zoo because the animals are very active when the weather is cooler.
Well, that's a good point, because a lot of times when you might head down there, you don't really see any activity. So if the animals are actually doing something, that's fun, especially for the kids.
Exactly.
And as far as the weather goes, I think maybe today or tomorrow might be a good time to head to the zoo. If you like the snow, then maybe wait till Thursday or Friday. Right now, we're pretty good. Not as a lot of sunshine, but at least we're above seasonal, sitting at 9 in Toronto, 10 in Trenton, 10 in Wyerton, a pretty warm trend, at least in southern Ontario. As for the day, there is rain on the way, so expect that. Wind, not a major concern, but you can notice also that the sun is setting earlier and earlier, and that's just something we're going to have to get used to, at least for another month. Typical low this time of year, -2, so we are well above that for tonight, so that's pretty good in and around the city. Looking at that rain that we were talking about, it's a pretty large system coming toward us, so that's hitting later today, and then it's going to come another band tomorrow, arriving at around 11:30 noon that time, and then notice it's switching then to snow. So we can expect the snow to move in Thursday at around the noon hours. So heavy rain, then eventually coming into turning into snow. So if you don't have snow tires, now's the time. And look at the accumulation. We could be getting about 2 centimeters. That's a pretty significant amount of snowfall by Friday. So bear that in mind as well if you've got any outdoor plans. Looking at the long-range forecast for today, we've got showers that are on the way, if not here in some areas. That band will leave and then sort of come and go, but continue through into Wednesday. Still above seasonal, but showers, and then it turns into flurries. You see, it's a chance. It just depends on how warm we get Thursday and Friday as to how much snow we're going to get, but expect some flurries Thursday and Friday. Don't be surprised. That'll end on Saturday, but the cooler air is going to remain, and we're going to be pretty much a little bit below seasonal Saturday and Sunday, and into Monday with a chance of flurries on Sunday. Overall, a pretty good forecast for today and tomorrow, but snow could be the story for Thursday and Friday. We'll give you a recap of the conditions later on in the show.
Okay, thank you, Nathan. In sports, the Toronto Raptors were looking for an 8th straight win when they squared off with the Cleveland Cavaliers last night.
They've won 11 of 12. Scotty muscling his way in. 7-0 run by Toronto.
The Raps were able to beat the Cavs 110-99 to keep their win streak going. The team will look for a 9th straight victory tomorrow when they take on the Indiana Pacers in the group stage of the NBA Cup.
Still to come, there's new hope for Canadians living with one of the most aggressive forms of cancers. We'll have more on a new treatment when we come back. There's new hope for Canadians living with one of the most aggressive forms of cancer.
The treatment is not a cure, but it is offering patients the gift of more time. CTV's Avis Favreau has the details.
On the stretcher is 67-year-old Elena Marcoux, about to be treated for an aggressive brain tumor in a very new way.
We confirmed that this is a glioblastoma.
She's one of about 1,000 Canadians diagnosed each year with glioblastoma, a cancer with a very high death rate. It ended the life of musician Gord Downie. The key problem, chemotherapy can't get past the blood-brain barrier to stop the tumor cells. So as part of her treatment, doctors give Elena an infusion of tiny microbubbles. And as she lays in an MRI, they send ultrasound waves into her brain to cause those bubbles to vibrate. The result, the bubbles are able to briefly pry open the brain's protective barrier, allowing the anti-cancer drug to reach the tumor.
As I went through, it got easier.
A new study of 34 patients, almost half of them in Canada, found this treatment given once a month for just 6 months extended overall survival from 19 to 30 months, a 40% increase. All the more intriguing because a few patients have survived longer.
There are still patients who were on this trial that are still alive right now, and that's 4 to 5 years in.
While not a cure, Dr. Lipsman is hopeful.
This is a disease that is in urgent need of treatment. I think the safety data was pretty compelling. I think the efficacy data was pretty compelling. And I'd love to see this as quickly as possible move through the regulatory process.
The treatment is clearly promising, but it needs big hospital-based equipment like this MRI, meaning it will be hard to get out to patients across the country. And that's why Canadian scientists here are developing the next generation of portable focused ultrasound. And this is what the next Canadian-designed prototype looks like, wires that deliver the ultrasound outside of an MRI, with patient studies to begin next year.
We can do it faster, we can do it more streamlined, doesn't require an overnight stay, but all of those steps will mean a much reduced cost footprint.
Elena, meanwhile, has one more treatment to go.
I have 2 grandkids. One is 10 months old, and I can be around them.
After which she hopes her brain tumor remains stable as she helps science with the next stage of this research. Avis Favreau, CTV News, Toronto.
The federal government is not committing to the expert roadmap for a national pharmacare system. Health Minister Marjorie Michel says the government is still reviewing the recommendations and stressed the advice is non-binding. The expert committee's report released last Friday calls for a national list of essential medications and federal funding to make those drugs free with a health card. But Michelle says health care is provincial and her job is to work with partners, not override them.
More than $5.4 billion in cannabis tax revenue has been collected since the drug was legalized for recreational use in Canada. The federal government added $1.2 billion to its coffers, while $4.2 billion went to the provinces. Ontario took in the greatest provincial share of revenue at $1.5 billion. Alberta was second at just more than $1 billion. Cannabis was legalized in 2018. The investigation continues into last week's vicious grizzly bear attack on students and teachers out on a field trip in BC. 2 bears have now been captured, but they have not yet been linked to the attack.
As CTV's Martin McMahon reports, there are calls for BC to revisit its ban on hunting grizzly bears.
What we're trying to do is just focus on keeping the community safe and trying to locate the bear.
Just days after a grizzly bear attacked a group of 20 elementary school students and teachers in Bella Coola, the environment minister very much focused on finding the sow and 2 cubs involved. Conservation officers captured a bear Monday morning.
The evidence that they've collected so far suggests that this was not the bear that was involved in the attack on the children and the teachers. The bear continues to be searched for by the conservation officers. Additional officers were sent up today.
A second bear was captured Monday afternoon in Bella Coola. It hasn't yet been established whether it was involved in Thursday's attack. This just the latest high-profile grizzly encounter. Last month, 2 hikers were attacked in Prince George, and a BC man was also attacked in East Kootenay, initially fighting the bear off before dying of his injuries. And in Alberta last month, a hunter was also left seriously injured by a grizzly. It's prompting calls to revisit BC's ban on grizzly hunting.
Obviously, there's other tools around mitigation, attraction management, bear conflict, But a number of places that, historically were opposed to grizzly bear hunting, we're hearing more and more from them now that they're really concerned, and there's having additional conflicts in the last couple of years.
But some experts are pushing back on the idea of reviving the hunt.
Across British Columbia, over about a 35-year period, the only statistical signal that is correlated with grizzly bear conflict is declines in food supply, specifically salmon.
Derrimont insists there are alternatives to a hunt.
And that is supporting the restoration of salmon runs, both the stream spawning habitat, looking again at harvest levels out in the ocean, and very importantly, helping humans manage attractants in their area.
The government will examine the hunting policy in the coming weeks, but says it will not make any immediate changes. Martin McMahon, CTV News, Vancouver.
Still to come, Meta is lobbying Ottawa for new rules when it comes to who's responsible for online age verification measures. We'll have those details when we come back.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Welcome back. Mayoral candidate Brad Bradford is addressing the Empire Club of Canada this hour, promising that if elected mayor, he would introduce a transit service guarantee on the TTC, meaning that if your ride is more than 15 minutes late, you would get your money back. Let's listen in.
That we do because of the extraordinary effort that you make, and I am so lucky to have you as a partner in all of this, and so grateful for your support. Thank you so much. Now, we're all here today because we love Toronto. We love Toronto. At its core, this is an amazing city with all of the ingredients to be exceptional. We have one of the best hospitals in the world in UHN. We are the center of education with the best schools. We have great sports teams. We've got the Jays, we've got the Raptors, we've got the Scepters, even the Leafs, all fabulous. And we have an incredible, vibrant arts and culture sector. Founders come here to Toronto to build their startups. This city is the cradle of AI, not just in the country, but the entire world. We attract the capital and the talent that drives Canada's economy. But when you look around, we can all feel it. The gift of Toronto is being squandered. The ability of Toronto to help its citizens live their best lives is being undermined. Study after study is saying the same thing. Toronto is slipping. And we don't need studies to tell that. We already know. Now, I'm a proud Torontonian, so let me just put the rankings to the side for a minute and say this. Toronto needs to get back to winning. We need to win again so that we can be the best city in the world to raise a family, to build a business, and to unlock our potential. That, my friends, should be our goal. I have a million reasons why I want to help with that mission. But it starts with the fact that Catherine and I are raising our two daughters here. Briar and Bronwyn are my reasons for getting up every morning. Sometimes it's pretty early, but that's the reason. So when I say to you, I want our city to win again, what I'm really saying is this. I want Toronto to be a city that works again. Because world-class cities get the basics right every single time. Safe streets for everyone. Transit that's fast, comfortable, and reliable. Snow that's cleared and removed in the wintertime. Parks that are safe, clean, and accessible for our families. If we could get the basics right, we could start building this city up to its full potential. We can restore the trust and the confidence that people ought to have in our city. And as mayor of Toronto, I will ensure that City Hall is laser focused on 3 key things: making this city safe for everyone, making this city more affordable, and making this city easier to get around. Let's start with the most basic expectation of any government. It's to keep our residents safe. But with protests taking over our streets, a rise in indiscriminate violence, and encampments that have proliferated across our parks, City Hall is dropping the ball. Mothers with strollers avoid the TTC because of open-air drug dealing or the fear of being assaulted. Anti-Semitism has been tolerated, emboldened, and spread in Toronto in a way we haven't seen since the Second World War. And a small boy, Javay Roy, murdered in his sleep, laying next to his mother, is a heartbreaking reminder of every parent's worst nightmare. I will turn this around. We need to be a city that respects and supports the police, full stop. That will require additional resources in our neighborhoods, on the TTC, and working with other agencies. It means getting back to basics, like connecting the homeless in our parks with housing and shelter, and removing encampments within 48 hours. It means making sure that our streets are clean again, free from the graffiti and litter emblematic of a city in decline. It means no longer tolerating hate of any form against anybody on our streets. But it will require strong and decisive leadership. And that's why I am committed to serving on the police board as mayor, because safety is job number 1. I'll tell you this, I will not be afraid to do the difficult things, to build a city of the future where we can describe Toronto as a clean, safe, and tolerant city once again. I would suggest to you that we're not winning on these scores today, but I'm confident that a return to basics will help us get there. If we can do that, if people
and that is mayoral candidate Brad Bradford outlining a back-to-basics plan for Toronto, pledging to make the city safer, more affordable, and easier to get around. That includes a transit service guarantee for the TTC, in which riders would get their money back if their ride is more than 15 minutes late. So far, Bradford is the only high-profile declared mayoral candidate. The election is October 26, 2026.
Well, Meta is lobbying Ottawa for new rules when it comes to who's responsible for online age verification measures. The company argues the App Store should verify users' ages instead of individual platforms like Facebook or Instagram. The change would put the burden of identifying underage users on companies like Apple and Google. The idea is that app stores would have to send a signal to app developers indicating whether users are older than 18. Meta Canada wants the Liberal government to include the change in upcoming legislation that deals with online safety issues.
The holiday shopping season is here, and that could pack a punch for your wallet. Equifax says credit card balances are expected to peak in December, with missed payments already on the rise as we head into the holidays. The agency says 1.45 million Canadian consumers missed a credit payment in the last financial quarter. That is up by 40,000 people from the previous quarter. The report found delinquencies are up among younger consumers and those in cities like Toronto and Vancouver. You're watching CTV News Toronto at noon. We'll have more when we come back. A new RBC poll says some Canadians may be overconfident when it comes to how well they can detect a scam, leaving shoppers more vulnerable over the holiday season. The poll found 86% of respondents think they can detect a scam, while 25% admit they have fallen victim to one. Many also said they are concerned that scams are getting harder to spot, especially with AI tools like deepfakes now being deployed by scammers. RBC says to protect yourself over the holiday season, shoppers should watch out for emails claiming your account has been hacked or notifications about delayed packages that prompt you to enter payment information.
Good reminder. I'll tell you this, the weather is not a scam. This is for real, and it is coming.
That's real news right there.
Rain on the way and also snow. Let's take a look at our satellite radar. You can see that there's a lot of that rain that is pretty much hitting us now, if not very soon. It's a pretty big band, so quite a bit of rain's expected for now and for the next few hours. Right now, though, conditions are pretty good. Just looking at 11 degrees in Niagara Falls, 8 Hamilton, 9 in Toronto. Normal this time of year would be 5 degrees, so we are above seasonal, even though we've got the rain story, and then that's going to turn to snow. So right now we've got showers that we're dealing with. That will continue off and on tomorrow as well. More showers, but double digits, hitting a high of 11 for tomorrow. But that's going to turn into some flurries on Thursday and Friday. So we do have some snow, wet snow expected. If you don't have your snow tires, now's a good time to get them on. For the weekend, though, things are going to be a bit better as far as not having the snow coming in, but it's going to be chilly. So that cooler air is moving in beginning Thursday and sticking with us right until the end of November. And then, of course, the first of the month of December on Monday. So, again, showers turning into snow over the next couple of days.
Okay.
And that is it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching. I'm Natalie Johnson.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.